Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's just on 10 o'clock, so we'll make a start, if that's okay. Welcome and thank you for coming on this cold winter's morning into a nice warm council chamber. Just a few housekeeping things. Normally, I'd like to I'll introduce myself first. I'm Councillor Michael Laird. I'll be chairing the meeting this morning. I'd also like to welcome Councillor Debbie Richards, who's attending her first scrutiny meeting this morning. So welcome to that, Councillor Richards. Just to mention, this meeting is being broadcast over the internet, and a recording will be available online after the meeting. Members of the public and press may record, film, photograph or broadcast this meeting when the public and press are not lawfully excluded and in line with the Council's published guidance. Most importantly, please could you ensure your IT is switched off or on silent, please. Can I remind you to speak clearly into the microphones and to avoid placing things such as papers and IT equipment in front of the microphone, as this will affect the sound quality on the live broadcast and in the chamber. Finally, we are not expecting a fire drill today. In the event of the alarm sounding, please leave the room following the exit signs. Okay, item 1 on our agenda this morning is public questions, and as far as I'm aware, we have received no public questions today. Agenda item 2 is apologies for absence, and we have apologies from Councillor Liz Harsant. Are there any others? Oh, we've got Councillor Bridgeman, I think, is that right? Bridgeman? Yeah, Rob Bridgeman, yes, who's not too well, so thank you for those. Agenda item 3 is declaration of interest and dispensations. Are there any, please? Yes, Councillor Scarff.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just need to declare page 28, case study 4 by ASC was a failure of a care home provider. I have mentioned this in council before because they had a relative that was actually in that home. So just mention that, as I think it's probably doesn't not allow me to discuss that. But
okay, thank you for that. I'd just like to declare an interest at this stage on an information bulletin which is on the Edmundum developments, which I sit on the board for that. I don't think I necessarily need to, but I think it's important to be open and transparent, so I will declare that. We don't have any discussion on the information bulletins, but I think it's important just to remind people that I have an interest in that particular item. Okay, we move on to agenda item 4, which is minutes of the previous meeting held on the 25th of September 2025. Are you content that this is a fair and true record of that particular meeting? Okay, nobody's against, so that's fine, thank you very much. So move on to agenda item 5, which is the main topic this morning, which is looking at business continuity. Now, some members will remember that we looked at cyber security 2 or so years ago, but this is looking at the more wider business context. So the objective of the meeting this morning is to consider the business continuity risk which the Council is planned for. Members will also consider the measures in place to safeguard the Council services in the event of a significant disruption to Council's infrastructure. So this is a broader look at the whole Suffolk County Council business and not just IT. Because adult social care is obviously quite a large directorate within the County Council, we will receive verbal information about the incidents that ASC is in preparing for and plans to have in place. So this is obviously going to affect some residents of Suffolk, and just to remind you, of course, we are here representing the residents of Suffolk. So we have a few people here on my left-hand side, so I think we ask you to introduce yourself, probably starting at this end, if that's okay, and that tests the microphones as well. So if you just go along the line, introducing yourself and saying what you cover, that'd be great. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Claire Sparks, I'm the IT Operations Manager.
Good morning, Mike Jackman, Core Technology Manager.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Mark Burgess. I'm the Assistant Director for Customer Experience and Digital. The IT service sits in my remit.
Good morning all, I'm Councillor Steve Wiles, Cabinet Member for Public Health and Public Protection.
Good morning all, I'm Steve Henthorne. I'm currently the Head of Emergency Planning and Business Continuity, sits under my remit.
Good morning, I'm Jill Muncaster. I'm the Business Continuity Manager for Suffolk.
And finally, good morning, I'm Kylie Waters. I'm the Head of Business Management and lead Business Continuity in Adult Social Care.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you might need to raise the decibel level a little when you speak, because there was a couple I couldn't quite understand, so it might be IT is in front of it or something, but it's important we and people who listen to this recording afterwards are aware what's being said. So, okay, thank you very much for that. I'm going to hand over to Councillor Wiles, who's, I think, is just going to do a brief introduction before we get on to the presentation side. Yep, thank you.
Yes, again, good morning committee, good morning Chair, and thank you. I'm pleased to be given the opportunity today to speak about a topic that is central to our ability to serve the people of Suffolk, business continuity. Business continuity starts with resilience. Resilience is not just a buzzword, it's a foundation of our capacity to respond to disruption, recover quickly, and continue delivering the services our communities rely on, no matter what the circumstances. Whether we're facing severe weather events, infrastructure failures, or global challenges like pandemics, our ability to adapt and maintain continuity is critical. It protects our services, safeguards our most vulnerable residents, and ensures that Suffolk County Council remains a trusted and dependable organisation. However, resilience is not just about reacting to emergencies. It's about planning ahead, investing in infrastructure, and empowering our teams to respond confidently and effectively. Looking forward, we must continue to embed resilience into everything we do. This means regular testing and updating our business continuity plans, strengthening our supply chain awareness, and fostering a culture of preparedness across all services. In closing, resilience is a strategic priority for Suffolk County Council. It enables us to protect our people, uphold our responsibilities, and serve our communities with confidence, whatever challenges lie ahead. Well, with your help, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to hand over to Jill and Stephen for their presentation, and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wiles, and thank you, Chair, for this opportunity. So my aim today is to expand on the submitted paper and provide scrutiny with the reassurance that Suffolk County Council has robust, tested and continually evolving plans. Let me start with a scenario. So imagine Suffolk County Council's critical IT systems fail. There's severe weather disruption, not just on our delivery of service, but on the county's infrastructure. And the weather makes it impossible to access some of our offices. So in that moment, staff don't simply just down tools and wait for the crisis to pass. That moment, one question matters: how do we keep our essential services running? And the answer to that is business continuity. So disruptions like the one I've just described, they aren't rare, they do happen, perhaps not all at once, but we have to be able to react. We take this responsibility seriously so we can deliver on our commitment to making Suffolk a great place to live, work and visit. Suffolk County Council's business continuity is grounded in statutory requirements under the Civil Contingencies Act 2004. And as a Category 1 responder, we are legally required to maintain, review and update our business continuity plans to ensure that critical services can continue. The Joint Emergency Planning Unit works closely with other Category 1 responders in Suffolk via the Suffolk Resilience Forum. So the other members, for example, are fire, ambulance, police, Met Office. Working with these ensures that we can work together, we are experienced working together, which provides a coordinated, swift and effective response. These regular joint exercises and shared learning and robust communication channels strengthen our collective preparedness. Suffolk County Council governance structure is very clear. The Joint Emergency Planning Unit leads on business continuity, supported by the Chief Exec, the corporate leadership team, the Cabinet member, and the Directorate Business Continuity leads. In each directorate, there is a resilience forum. They meet regularly to discuss their services' resilience. Business continuity plans are essentially live documents, so they need to be continually reviewed and kept up to date, including analysis of their service to identify prioritised activities and minimum resources required for service delivery. And our IT department maintain a separate disaster recovery plan to ensure rapid restoration of critical services. So our plans are based on thorough risk assessment, including the Suffolk Resilience Community Risk Register. So we prepare for scenarios such as loss of building, loss of staff, loss of utilities, pandemics, loss of fuel, and loss of IT and communications. So business continuity is not about anticipating every risk. It would be impossible to predict and prepare for every incident, but it's our readiness and being able to adapt our plans to support recovery. Business continuity is every staff member's responsibility, and this is embedded by the all staff completing mandatory e-learning. It gives them a good understanding of business continuity, which is not just part of your working environment, it also helps support that business continuity might happen in your own life. We also provide staff with tactical management awareness sessions. This gives staff further in-depth understanding of our roles and responsibilities in the event that the command and control structure is set up. More information we can provide to staff in a calm, controlled environment, the more confident and capable our staff are during incidences. So let me highlight how Suffolk County Council has learned from previous incidences and embedded these lessons. So historically, staff were provided with fixed desktop computers rather than laptops. But in 2017, a fire occurred at Claydon Business Park office. It happened on a Friday evening, always does, resulting in the loss of IT equipment for all staff there. Business continuity arrangements were promptly enacted, allowing all affected staff to be relocated and provided replacement IT, so they could continue working on the Monday morning to ensure unbroken service. This incident highlighted the risks associated with relying solely on office-based IT equipment and recognising that the lack of building access would also impact on the IT equipment. IT began gradually replacing desktops with laptops, enabling staff to work remotely and reducing the risk of not being able to access IT. So when it became necessary to close buildings during the COVID-19 pandemic, staff were already equipped with portable IT devices and prepared to transition from office to home working. And to support the large-scale remote operations, SCC implemented business continuity measures to rapidly enhance its IT infrastructure, prioritising essential personnel and to ensure secure connectivity. This enhanced infrastructure is now business as usual. Again, Storm Babette in October 2023 highlights the importance of enhanced communication between directorates. As a result, the command and control structure was updated, introducing an extra cross-directorate layer to promote more effective information sharing and coordination. This ensures that all directorates receive identical information altogether, avoiding delays or duplication in actions. This new structure has been tested within the last 2 exercises with success, and more importantly, earlier this year, we had an incident that affected a case management system that several directorates use. Initially, the evidence showed that only one directorate was affected, who immediately enacted their BC arrangements. Soon, it became apparent that this affected more directorates, who again enacted their BC arrangements. So a lesson learned from this live incident, this particular incident, we now automatically set up the corporate command and control structure, enabling a more effective response so we all work together. In closing, business continuity is a continuous journey. Every lesson learned, every exercise, every improvement strengthens our resilience. It's not just an internal process, it's our commitment to every resident that vital services will continue. I hope this information provides you with some reassurance, and thank you for giving me the time. Chair, if agreeable, I will pass over to my colleague Kylie Walters, who will give us a case study that affected adult social care.
Right, yes, thank you for that. So over to Kylie. The presentation, I think, is on your table, but it'll be on the screen as well.
Lovely, thank you everyone. So first I just want to thank you for giving adult social care the opportunity to shine a light on our robust business continuity arrangements. It's really clear in adult social care our approach is built on resilience, responsiveness and a commitment to keeping people truly at the heart of care. And today I'll talk to you about our focus and processes through our case study example that was submitted, and to ensure that continuity of support even in challenging circumstances. So firstly, you'll see on screen, so our business continuity objectives. These were the 3 key objectives that we were focusing on with particularly this case study, but they're true throughout all of our case studies impacting the care market. So first, our objective is to prioritise life and safety by acting swiftly to reduce risk for all residents, including suspending the home and arranging targeted transfers. We aim to maintain continuity of care by keeping people local wherever possible, therefore protecting routines, family contact and that clinical oversight. And lastly, we mobilise system capacity at speed, so integrating our social work teams with safeguarding, health partners, providers and CQC to avoid any gaps in care. So these objectives guided every decision and resource allocation throughout the incident. Going back to people at the heart of care, during any business continuity response, our priority is always to keep people at the heart of care. So we achieve this by RAG rating. So that's a red, amber, green process that we use in adult social care to quickly identify the level of risk and urgency for each individual. So if it's someone that's RAG rated, they're a high risk and therefore we need that immediate intervention. If they're amber, we mark this as a moderate risk, so we need close monitoring and timely support. And then lastly, green, that low risk. So they're stable but still reviewed regularly. So continuous reviews ensure we understand and respond to the assessed needs of our people, adapting our support as circumstances change. And for each given incident like this, we regularly undertake updated reviews to really understand that true position of the person, their needs, and how we can support them going forward. Lastly, it's really important that not only are we focusing on the people, but it's also all credit to our operational teams. So our social work teams promptly conduct reviews with these individuals, together with our safeguarding colleagues, and they engage directly with them at the homes as well as their wider network, ensuring that our care decisions are informed and person-centred. Also to play in this example is our strategic commissioning and contract management team, and a pivotal role that they played in maintaining that service quality and resilience. So they ensure that our providers adhere to their contracts by setting clear expectations and compliance standards and safeguarding the integrity of care delivery. And they monitor performance and risk. So through the regular checks and proactive engagement, they identify emerging issues early and work closely with providers to maintain continuity and quality. Perfect, thank you. So slide 2. So governance and accountability. So governance and accountability were central to our response here. The provider acted outside of their contractual expectations by changing their admission criteria without engagement with Suffolk County Council. So we reinforced our contract monitoring and escalation routes, and that included direct engagement with oversight bodies, as I say, including CQC. So in terms of our actions, we suspended the home promptly once this risk was identified, and we reviewed the contract clauses then and going forward to make sure that we look at the earlier intervention triggers. For safeguarding, we prioritised the immediate risk to life and safety, whereby still respecting residents' rights and choices, and ensured a multi-agency collaboration through joint visits and daily meetings. This approach led to positive feedback and successful safeguarding outcomes. It's really clear we acted swiftly, we reinforced our monitoring and our strengthening contract clauses for the future, and that was a big key element of our learning for here. If I can move on to the next slide, please. So early warning and intelligence. So early warning intelligence was gathering faced challenges, and that challenge was due to leadership changes at the home, and we had fragmented signals which delayed our safeguarding responses. We have now strengthened our system intelligence sharing with prompts for visiting professionals to assess the wider environment and not just to that individual. We've looked at escalation routes and we've been re-promoting those, and also including safeguarding prompts embedded into our assurance visits. Training on professional curiosity is also being rolled out to support that earlier detection. For business continuity, it's a rapidly expanded system capacity, and we implemented a robust framework, ensured daily coordination among partners. We do appreciate that consistent communication and regular family engagement helped to stabilise the situation and led to positive outcomes. If I may move on to the next slide. So for our learning and improvement, we are committed to embedding lessons learned system-wide. Particularly for this example provided, we updated our safeguarding training, our ERS, which is our experience of received service promotion, and utilising the 5 senses action card, and that's our holistic observation, so looking at the sight, the smell, hearing, touch and speech in those environments. We success will be measured through assurance visits, feedback loops and shared system intelligence outputs. We've established clear pathways for early information sharing and encouraging all visiting professionals to assess the broader environment. Verifying provider claims and applying a public health perspective are now our standard practice. We also encourage early reporting of small concerns, recognising that silence can often hide bigger issues. So through our training, monitoring and shared intelligence, we are now ensuring continuous improvement. Next slide, please. So people at the heart of care. At the heart of our approach is a commitment to people-centred care. The feedback we've received speaks volumes. He was already looking and feeling better. Mum has gone from the Travel Lodge to the Hilton, and what you really do does make a difference. So these voices truly remind us of the work that we undertake and reinforce our commitment to that continuous improvement and partnership. Just want to end by saying, during any business continuity response, we always keep people at the heart of care. In the early stages of any incident, we prioritise transparent and timely communication. In adult social care, that provides initial briefings and reports that are shared promptly with our Director of Adult Social Care and Becky as our Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care, ensuring strategic oversight from the outset and very much making sure that locally they are clearly aware of the BC impacting adult social care. In that wider engagement with local councillors, we endeavour to inform local councillors as soon as we are able to safely and appropriately divulge details, maintaining accountability and community confidence. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you very much. It's interesting, isn't it, that you can plan as much as you want, but actually the only really learning comes from when you have an incident. And I think that's interesting to see those and hear those case studies of incidents and the learning that comes from that. So thank you all very much for that. We just noted that we should have had Lloyd Jones here from the communications team, because communications is pretty key to this sort of whole topic. But we did spot Mark in the corner there, so we've dragged him down to the front now. So Mark, could you just introduce yourself and what your role, job title is?
Yeah, good morning everyone. I'm Mark Langford. I'm from the communications team. And as the chair rightly points out, I'm not from the business continuity side of life. I actually deal with the highways and flooding, but I'll answer your questions as best as I can this morning. Just to reiterate really what Jill referred to, the communications team does run 24/7, 365 days a year, and we would utilise a variety of means in which to make sure that the message gets out there, be it through social media or just good old-fashioned word of mouth. When we had the denial of service attack recently, we were speaking to the media to ensure that they were updated, and in turn that the public were aware of what was going on. Similarly, we would utilise people such as yourselves to get the message out there as well, because obviously you represent your communities and you're a conduit to those people. So there are many ways and means of getting the message out there, and that is something we do utilise.
Okay, thank you for stepping into the breach this morning. Just before I open it up to questions in a moment, I just wanted to sort of pick up, I think you mentioned it's the Civil Continuities Act 2004. I mean, that's 21 years out of date now, and a lot has happened in 21 years. Do I understand that's probably currently being updated or revised, or is it still in force?
The Civil Contingencies Act was issued in 2004, and it's continually been reviewed, and there's guidance documents behind that which we receive and respond to. So it's a core piece of legislation that we work to, but as I say, there is continuous guidance being issued on that, covering new aspects, such as business continuity in COVID and Grenfell and stuff like that.
Okay, so you're confident it's up to date to where we are in 2025?
I am fully confident it's up to date. I think it fits what we require for the current time period that we're in. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'll open it up to members now for questions. You've obviously had all the information in your packs. So who's first? Councillor Bird's hands up first, and then Councillor Goldsmith. Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the presentation. The area I'd like to focus on is one that we admittedly did cover in the previous scrutiny that we covered on this. As the Chairman says, events move on. My concern, I mean, it's an increasing concern I have in wider life, that organisations and individuals are becoming day by day more and more totally dependent on IT systems to perform almost every function in life. I'm waiting for when I have to authenticate myself on a smartphone just to buy a pint of milk. But the scenario I want to paint to you is if one of these hacking organisations, whoever they are, criminals, get into our system and shut our entire IT down, our entire IT system. You're assuring me that we can continue with all of our activities, doing all of the things that the computer, I mean, presumably our computers do thousands of functions automatically every day, which won't be done. Now, you're saying we can recover, we can get things up and running again, we can carry on with all our services, helping all our customers pay our bills, etc., etc. So really my question is, what have we got, or what do we know that Co-op, Marks and Spencers and Jaguar Land Rover haven't got? Because recent events have shown that once somebody can get into their systems, they're out of action for weeks, months. They can do nothing. Marks and Spencers lost about £200 million in sales. Jaguar Land Rover couldn't do anything for about 2 months. They couldn't issue people spare parts for their vehicles, etc., etc. So what have you got And what do you know that these other organisations don't know in a scenario where one of these hackers gets in and shuts our entire ID down for weeks on end?
That's an IT question, I think, for the IT person.
So I'm happy to start the answer to that one. I don't think it is just an IT question. It's more about services and how they respond to the scenario when they don't have any IT. I think what I would say is that, so I don't propose for a second that we are completely immune to any type of attack that you've referenced there. And yeah, there is always the possibility that an attack like that could cause significant disruption to the IT services that we provide on a day-to-day basis. The point is that services within the council have business continuity plans that effectively cater for the scenario where they need to continue to operate, but in the absence of having systems, data, online services. So it's probably more of obviously we in IT would be looking to restore and limit the impacts of any such event as quickly as we could and restore service. But in the meantime, it would be the directorates and the services in those directorates that would be invoking business continuity plans to ensure that they can continue to deliver services that, in the absence of having the information that they usually rely on through IT. So
I'm happy to expand on that a little bit. So what we do within our resilience forums in each directorate is we look at having to keep continuing our services without IT. So, for example, there might be something that we need to deliver regularly, so we go back to pen and paper. Everything, the systems are taken offline. We also have something that I do allude to in the evidence paper is Resilience Direct. So that is a home office platform, and what we're doing now is we're using that to store all our business continuity plans, any kind of paper-based system, anything that we can provide and work with outside of the IT. So we'll have all our templates, etc., on there so we can continue to deliver our service.
Can I come back on that? Because I just can't get my head around how you would have the logistic capacity, because presumably all our IT systems perform thousands of functions in a matter of minutes now, paying carers, buying our supplies. If our IT is down for weeks on end, would you have enough people? Would you have enough telephone lines to literally do all of the thousands of things that a computer would be doing? It's impossible. Human beings can't do 1,000 functions a second or whatever that a computer does.
So with that, with our business continuity plans, what we do is we analyse and we pick up and only work with the critical services. There are lots of functions within the council that we can put to one side. As long as we can support our vulnerable people, and then we will move resources around the council.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously it would be managed at a high level, strategic level. They'd make a decision on which services we'd have to contract in to make sure we maintain the critical service delivery. And one of that may be is that we may have to redeploy staff from those non-critical services to support those critical services, such as telephone capability, and or even going around checking areas to make sure they're working correctly. It'd be wrong to say that we wouldn't be affected and we wouldn't be impacted, because we would. But we would try to maintain our critical services, our life-saving capability as much as we can. And obviously we would rely on yourselves as well to put that message out to your community, so that we are experiencing issues, but we are maintaining our critical services.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thank you, Councillor Bird. That was an absolutely brilliant opening question and underlines the reason that we need the business continuity plan. If all else fails, We work on a business as usual basis, but what do we do when it's no longer business as usual? And that is the reason that we need to continually look at and update our business continuity and also our resilience to that. As an example, we have recently opened a control room in the north of Ipswich for the fire service. We have gone over and over and over again the scenario, what happens if the IT goes down, what happens in the unlikely event that that control room could not function. So we have a backup control room which can click in automatically. We've already highlighted the change in the way that the authority works, the change in our IT, that we are more mobile and more functional by being able to work from home or from any other areas. But you're absolutely correct. It would throw the proverbial spanner in the works if our IT fell, and we would have to then look to our continuity and our business plans to be able to, as quickly as possible, continue to serve the people of Suffolk. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mark, you're welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, just further to what Steve Henthorne said. Obviously, yes, there will be any impacts on the performance functions of the council. We would be communicating that to the outside world, using whatever means we can to get the message out there so that people are aware of what's going on, what's been done about it, and how we can best help them to manage the situation.
Quickly, Chair, my only other question on the IT front, obviously I've asked you about these hackers that get in to shut your system down. My other fear is data theft. I mean, was it about a year ago, Santander Bank was hacked and apparently they stole information on 200,000 employees who work for Santander around the world. Obviously, I don't have to tell you we're holding the most critical information about customers, vulnerable customers, are fostering children in care, etc., etc. Again, my fear is, can one of these people get in and steal that information that we hold on people?
Hi. Yeah, it's a good question. So, of course, it's always possible. We talk about, these are real-life scenarios. They're happening. The example you gave was a real one, and there are lots of them. I think what we take a multi-layered stance to security in the council, and obviously with this being a public forum, there are certain things that I can't share because that would potentially jeopardise, the security that we're talking about. So, just picking up on the point about social care data, so we do. We have our kind of strategic approach to line of business systems is to move them to cloud services where appropriate, where that's the right thing to do. So, the scenario that you mentioned where, a multitude of systems could potentially be attacked is quite low because they're hosted in different places by different suppliers. And those data sets are underpinned by contracts with those third parties, and within that we set out the principles and standards that we expect those suppliers to adhere to when they're processing and looking after our data. So we do take a very strong approach to it, but of course it is always possible. We can never say with 100% certainty that wouldn't happen.
Okay, thank you very much. I said at the start we did look at cyber security, and I think it was in September 23. But things move on pretty quickly. I think, as Councillor Bird said, there's some examples of some big organisations who have succumbed to cyber attacks. So it might be something we could look at again, put on our forward work programme to look at in the next year or something, because a year or two in IT is a long period, isn't it? And things change so rapidly. So yes, Mark. Yeah.
I just thought it might be relevant to mention a business continuity exercise that we undertook only last week. So this was coordinated by Jill and colleagues in JPU, but this was an exercise to test the very scenario of a cyber attack. And it included the chief executive and the corporate leadership team and all the directorates, and played out kind of how that response would sort of happen in reality. So yeah, it is something that we're kind of trying to be prepared for as best we can be, and actively testing these things to assure ourselves that there's resilience and there's kind of responsiveness in place should the worst happen. I would also just mention as well, obviously there was the item in 2023. We did also provide an information bulletin to this committee earlier this year as well to update on cybersecurity. As Mike says, there's aspects that we can't share in the public domain, but yeah, we're more than happy to provide what the committee would like to know around that.
And how often do you do these tests, these sort of exercises then? Are they annually, or are they just every...
I'll probably let Jill talk about that, because it's not just testing cybersecurity, a cyber incident, there's other tests as well. So yeah, you have a whole kind of regime of exercises, don't you, throughout the year?
We do. Certainly in JP, we run a number of exercises, some that were required by law, such as Sizewell and our control and measure X and hazard sites. But we also do some internal exercising as well within the county and also within our multi-agency partners. So we do have a range of exercise planning. I'd like to do more, to be brutally honest with you. It's just a matter of trying to find the resources and time to do it. But I'm happy with what we got, but in an ideal world, I'd love to do lots more.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I'll move on to the next speaker. I've got Councillor Goldsmith next, and then Councillor Welham.
You're going to love me. I've got two questions, but if I do the IT one, yes, I understand everything that's been said about IT. But we have a remote server, which has been mentioned, which stores the same data as on the main server. If we're hacked, that remote server would be hacked as well at the same time. That would be definitely off the cards, gone. Now my question is, critical services, where would you gain the information you need if both servers are down? That is one question for the IT. Also, my other question is, nowhere in this report has been mentioned how we operate and cooperate with the districts and the borough and the parish councils if there's an emergency.
Okay, I can't answer the question about the servers. I'll refer to my colleagues over there. Regarding relationships with district borough councils, we have a very strong relationship with them, because within the Joint Emergency Planning Unit, we work for all local authorities. So within my team, I have people based within East Suffolk, West Suffolk, Bridgeman, Suffolk and Ipswich. And we have regular team meetings where we're looking at business continuity and making sure that all the business continuity plans are very similar. And what we also identify is any issues that are raised within that respective local authority. We look at those in our team meetings, look at lessons identified, and if necessary, we will then roll them out throughout the whole of the local authorities throughout the whole of Suffolk. I also do have a regular meeting with senior directors within each local authority to look at what the issues are within their respective authority, and if necessary, we will share them with the team and share that shared experience and information. With the IT bit, I think I need to refer to my colleagues to my right, because I haven't got a clue.
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, I'm happy to pick that up. So I think the first point is, though, so from an IT standpoint, technology-wise, our response to any cyber attack, any kind of incident of that nature, is always about containment. So the first thing that we want to do is to limit the spread. Okay, so for data that we host, and actually Suffolk County Council hosted data is minimal. As I said before, we have a strategy where most of our stuff now sits in cloud suppliers across a multitude of different platforms. So this idea that you could kind of lose all of those at once is quite unlikely. Of course, it's possible, but it's unlikely. They're isolated systems. They're in different locations. They're not related in any way. So, that's quite an unlikely scenario. I think for data that we host, as I say, we would be looking at containment as a first step. We do have, obviously backups of systems and backups of backups, and that kind of backup strategy sits there as the kind of fallback should you lose everything that you're hosting. But it's an unlikely scenario, I would say.
Okay. You have to put your microphone on, I think, Councillor Goldsmith.
I forgot about that. With the critical services, we could access information virtually instantly to back that up so we could carry on.
Sorry, yeah, so we have backups of all of our data, and we can restore data sets to certain points, and we work closely with business continuity and colleagues across the organisation to work out where our critical data sets are, and what's right in terms of backup principles and restore points. So, you know, for certain transactional systems like your financial system, you want to be able to restore to a transactional level. For data sets that don't change that frequently, we're obviously not backing up on a second-by-second basis. It could be hourly, it could be daily. So we do have those restore points as defined by colleagues in the business. Hopefully that answers the question. But
okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Just on Councillor Goldsmith's first part of his question about the districts and boroughs, can I just broaden that out a bit in terms of the utility companies? What sort of connections do you have with all the external utility companies?
No problem at all. So we work very closely with the Resilience Forum. Just to very quickly explain what that is, it's an umbrella organisation that is required under the Civil Contingencies Act, and it requires all Category 1 responders, which are your blue lights ourselves, and also Category 2 responders, such as utility companies, to share information. And we meet on a regular basis with those organisations, both within the Resilience Forum, and I've actually gone and spoken to UK Power Networks on separate bits. And just a few months ago, there was a Category 2 workshop hosted by the local authority where all those organisations met and we shared that information. And as a result of that, under the Resilience Forum, there is now going to be a Category 2 group set up, which is going to link very much heavily into sales. So we are sharing information. Yes, we do with the district and boroughs, but we also go far wider through the Resilience Forum with our blue light colleagues and our health colleagues.
Great, thank you very much. I've got Councillor Welham, then Councillor Scarff.
Thank you, Chair. I've got three questions. Can I ask the first two first, because I think they're for Mark? And then there's a more general question. So, with so many services provided now to the county via external contractors, where do service deliverers, such as Milestone, the highways contractor, fit into a directorate Resilience Forum? Are they involved at all, the outside contractors? And the other is, how do you handle press and resident inquiries? Because if residents get hold of half a story, they're going to be ringing up. So if there's an electricity outage, there's a number, a 3-digit number, that anybody anywhere can just dial that number, and there's a pathway then to find out the information. Is there such a way of finding out if there's a problem with a county council service?
In relation to your first question, we work very closely with contractors, and they would feature as part of the overall effort to deal with the situation. So street lighting, for instance, would be a fact, one of those areas, as would roads. In terms of your second question, just to be clear, are you asking me how the media would work, or how we would work with the media in terms of messaging?
Well, I guess you've got a way of working with the media by providing them information. But the bigger problem, I think, is an individual, a resident, might well get word that something's going wrong. Perhaps a grandparent is in a home that there's a problem with the home, or it could be a road is blocked, or there's a bomb being found on the A14 or whatever. So it could be absolutely any service. Is there a number that people could ring, or is it a good idea to have a number that people could ring, either one per directorate or one general number, that you could then be fed down a pathway?
No, I don't think that there's a central number people can ring as such, but if there were particular instructions we needed to get out to people, we would reiterate that you will see it on the County Council website or the County Council social media, and that is what you should listen to. Social media obviously has a mind of its own and can run away very quickly. One of the things we do emphasise is that if it's not on our mediums, then discount it. The official line will be on the official channels, and we would use those channels. Say, as you say, you raised a question about say there's a medical or a care emergency. If it became apparent that there was a need to do that, we would broadcast what you needed to do on our channels.
Could I just add in, sorry, from a person's perspective, so on behalf of adult social care in children, young people, we have a customer first centre. So if any family members or residents are concerned, we have that number which is widely publicly available. They'll then get diverted to the appropriate team and to the allocated social worker that way. So for our people facing, they would use the customer first profiling.
So customer first, is that an 0800 number? And with a queue of, if something went really badly wrong, the waiting time could be very long indeed. You know, I'm thinking about perhaps a recorded message that people could bring in. You get a recorded message if you've got an electrical outlet, and then there's a number to ring. If you're in IP 144AN, ring this number and you'll get more details. It could be, if you're worried about a care home, ring this number. Can I come back on the social media thing? Because we had what I didn't call an emergency, but we had an incursion in Stow Upland of travellers, and people were looking on social media to find out what was going on. I would say that guessing 99% was fake that was on there. It was really just trying to generate hatred. Now, what I wouldn't want is that what we do when we're trying to say that something's gone wrong in a certain place, we don't want 100,000 people posting, well, what do you expect from the county council, and that sort of thing. So I'm thinking about being proactive and having somewhere where people can go to get honest information, the sort of information that they need but don't need to spread.
Well, that would be the County Council website and the County Council social media. We are the official body dealing with this situation, and we would urge people just to follow our channels or the channels that we rebroadcast, such as the police, the fire and ambulance service, and not to be taken in by misinformation on social media.
Try telling my 97-year-old uncle that he's got to go on Facebook or whatever and discount the stuff that's untrue.
Well, there would be other media being used as well. So we would put out information to BBC Suffolk, the local print media, to use on their websites as well. So to summarise it, if it's not been officially approved by us, then essentially don't listen to it. If it's not been approved by the police or the blue light services, don't listen to it. It needs to come from an official source.
Okay, thank you. Steve, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Chairman. We live in an age of instant access to information, and we rely heavily on that. But one of the things that we look at within business continuity is worst case scenario. And recently, we've gone through a couple of worst case scenarios. I recall quite vividly what happened with the Storm Babette. People wanted to know what's happening. People wanted to know where highways were, whether they could have help to evacuate their areas. And we quite quickly found out that the use of social media could, in some ways, as Councillor Welham said, become corrupt, because false messages are sent. But the idea of having a very, very cohesive comm strategy is that they would contact, for instance, media such as radio, where radio messages are sent out. And one thing that we've seen over the years is that people fall back on radio if they need a message, because the old battery radios, even if the electric went off, you could still pick up a message. But above and beyond that, especially with the Beast of the East and Babette, we found that one of the main links was the people in this chamber. It was the community leaders who were there on the floor working with JPU, who were there to try and coordinate all the other authorities who were working towards one aim. They were there to pass on the message. And there's nothing more reassuring than hearing that your local councillor, as a community leader, gives you a message. This is what's happening. We are in touch with the authorities. Something is happening. And that's what people often complain about, that they haven't got that personal touch. And all of us here are that link, and that will, I believe, will continue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And also, I think most towns and parishes have an emergency plan as well, don't they? So it's a link into that, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mr. Chair, obviously in JPU, and we work very closely with all the district boroughs, so we're producing community emergency planning groups as well, which we use quite regularly. Certainly, an example being, we had some really bad weather, Beast in the East, and we were getting told on social media, these roads are shut, or this is happening. We were going into the community group saying, what is actually happening in your area? Oh, don't worry about it, it's okay. And they were able to go out and speak to their vulnerable people and people within their community. And another example was in 2013, we had a storm, I forget the name of it, but East Suffolk was heavily impacted upon it. UK Power Network asked us to set up areas where people could go and have hot meals and do their charge mobile phones up. How do we get that message out? So we've got no phones because the telephones were down. We spoke to our community emergency planning groups and they spread the message out. But I totally commend Councillor Wiles's view is that you are also very key in all this because you know your community and they trust you.
I won't go that far. Yeah, sorry. Mark, did you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to build on something that Kylie said. So Kylie mentioned the Customer First Contact Centre being a point of contact for people that need information. What we also have in the Council's Corporate Contact Centre, which is a separate contact centre, is a dedicated emergency line that we stand up. We can stand that up as and when required. So most of the year it's sort of dormant and not required, but we have activated it in the past. So this is a number that people can call. We can put recorded messages on that line, or we can route it through to a live person for them to receive some answers to their questions. So there is some infrastructure in place that supports the kind of immediate provision of information and the ability to field inquiries from the public. Like I say, it's something we can stand up quite quickly. It's already there in the background and configured in our system. We just activate it as and when required. So during the Beast from the East, we did that, and it was also something we were looking at doing in Storm Babette as well. And the capacity that sits behind that can be scaled up if needs be as well, and we can sort of take it from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, through to 24/7 over the weekends and stuff if we need to. So I just wanted to give some assurance around, in terms of a point of contact for the public, there is stuff we can activate when needed.
I may. Yeah, I think that number went live one day. Was it last week? Is that the 0345 number? Because there was an emergency number came onto the front page of the website when we had that really bad weather, and I found that and passed it on to people who were becoming flooded during that really heavy rain. So is that the number?
Without checking, I don't believe it was activated last week, so that might have just been a general inquiry number, just our usual sort of highways flooding type inquiry line. I don't believe we activated the dedicated emergency line last week. It's really where there's quite significant major incidents when we activate that.
I can help you there, Mark. That number was for people to report things like fallen trees and flooded roads.
Yeah.
Which that goes up quite regularly in bad weather.
Right, thank you. Chair, can I move on to my more general question?
I'm concerned we're straying away from business continuity a bit. We're looking at sort of other things in the area, so if we can stick to that, that'd be good.
Yeah, my concern about sort of the immediate future is that you've got business continuity for Suffolk County Council, but we're about to have mayoral authorities and so on coming into being, and some of the county's responsibilities will pass on to the mayor. So, I mean, presumably you're planning for that, and you're planning for planning with, well, you haven't got unitary authorities to plan with yet, but I guess that you are starting to prepare for mayoral authorities, unitary authorities, and indeed, I guess you're going to have to, at some point, prepare for the fire services passing over to the mayor. I was surprised that the chief officer for this particular report was John Lacey, but presumably John Lacey and his team will at some point move over to a mayor.
Yeah. First of all, to answer the John Lacey question, he's my executive director because Joint Military Planning sits under Fire and Public Protection. That's why his name's there.
Yeah, understood that.
I did ask him if he wanted to come, but he declined. Regarding the future work, I have actually tasked my business continuity manager to start looking at that. I referred earlier on that JPOO covers all local authorities. We work for all local authorities. We're quite fortunate in Suffolk because we have this unit, and most of our business continuity plans are very similar. And I've asked Jill now to go through into all districts and boroughs to look at their BC plans to make sure that all the risks are the same, and if not, to question why they're not. Because what we have learned from some meetings we've had with authorities who have gone through the change into single or two councils from a number of councils, is one of the big issues was business continuity. So we're fully aware of that. But as I say, I think in Suffolk we're quite fortunate that we do have the JPOO there, which is responsible for BC throughout all local authorities. So we're on a very firm footing. But I've asked Jill to look at that very carefully. And yes, we are looking at the mayoral system as well to see how Fire will go over to that. But Fire have their own business continuity people, who again, Jill works very closely with. So rest assured we're fully sighted on that and aware of the potential issues that may exist.
Steve,
Yeah, thanks, Chair. It would be very remiss of me not to comment on behalf of the fire service, which falls within my portfolio. Yes, exactly as Stephen has just said, there are continuity plans being drawn up. We are working very closely within the fire services of both Norfolk and Suffolk towards the handover to the new mayoral role in whichever form that is. I've had conversations with government about how that will be guided to its achievable end. We are also in discussions with Sizewell about the anomaly and what happens and what provisions that they will need from the service, because of course it is an extra stress within the service. So that is already part of the continuity plan. One of the emphasis that we look at from day to day is just to make sure that the business as usual aspect of the fire service is 100% focused, whilst also looking to move to the future. We make sure that today is safe, and we will continue to do so. Thank you, Chair.
Great, thank you very much. You must have a very large crystal ball, Jill, I think, to work through all those things. So, right, next question, I've got Councillor Scarff, then Councillor Richards, and then Councillor Reader and Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Page 25, in answer to what is the process for reviewing, updating and validating business continuity plans, paragraph 58 talks about the internal audit review of JP's emergency response preparedness, and it says, amongst the principal observations, it was noted that while the corporate business continuity plan had been updated, certain directorate and service level plans remained outdated. It then goes on to tell us that the business continuity manager collaborated with each directorate to ensure all plans were thoroughly reviewed and republished by September of this year. Above that, in paragraph 57, it said a formal review of all directorate BCPs will also be conducted at least every 3 years, but within the County Council's best practice is to review annually. So there's a little bit of a contradiction there. I wonder, should it be that all BCPs are reviewed annually, bearing in mind what I said in paragraph 58, where there was clearly some of those directorates and service level plans not really performing. So that's the first question. And then page 39 talks about, it's an illustration from Growth Highways and Infrastructure, which talks about, furthermore, the absence of a formal Growth Highways and Infrastructure out-of-hours response system was noted, with the current arrangement being managed informally through goodwill between colleagues. The question would be, is relying on goodwill a satisfactory way to perform? Thank you.
Okay, so your first point, business continuity plans are actually reviewed continuously because, you know, if somebody leaves, for example, we need to update it with a new, you know, the new person's information. But yes, best practice is I'll contact each directorate to ensure that they have reviewed their plans. So it's annually. I'll make sure that they've been contacted. Does that answer that question?
I think that helps because it was a confusion at least every 3 years, but best practice annually. So it was kind of trying to get to what actually does occur. Yeah, which you sort of answered there.
And the second point about goodwill, I'm not sure whether a HR person might need to answer that, but look, Steve's going to come in now.
This is a risk that I raised with the corporate leadership team in that we have director level calls, so strategic directors are always on call, but we don't seem to have some of the key directorates with lower level, people who know how to do it. So with GH&I, especially roads, they do have a call-out system. That's through Milestone. Milestone, is it?
Yeah.
Milestone, who have been contracted to do the emergency day-to-day bit. It's when you get to, I need to speak to a senior person, that's where it relies on goodwill. And they are looking at that. In saying that, Andrew Cook, who's the executive director of the GH&I, he's on call anyhow, so we reach through him as well. He's the over person who has responsibility for that. In saying that, the assistant director of highways, John Clements, and his managers, I've always found if I've needed to speak to them, I've always managed to get hold of them. But it's not an ideal situation. It's something we are aware of, and I know that CLT are looking at that. And in fact, I believe there's some work being done on that as we speak. But I know no more than that. And I think it is very much an HR issue regarding contracts and bits and pieces within that. I hope that's answered your question on that one.
Yes, thank you for that. I mean, that gives us more information, and I'm pleased that is actually being looked at because I think that's potential structural weakness.
Thank Thank you. Are we correct in thinking the audit committee monitors the risk register on an annual basis?
The risk register is continually looked at by CLT. I know that they looked at it on last Tuesday. The audit team within county, having gone through an audit scrutiny for emergency planning, business continuity, they do go in depth, and I believe they have made mention that they will start looking at directorates BC plans as well. So that's something that the audit team within county are doing, but believe me, they are very, very thorough.
Good, thank you very much for that. Councillor Richards.
Can I comment
yes.
on the risk register?
Quickly. Yeah.
The risk register is continually monitored also from cabinet members. In informal cabinet, we have input on any issues that we have and go direct to the directorate if we do recognise an issue or problem, and that happens on a very regular basis.
Thank you for that. Councillor Richards.
Thank you. I have two questions. Right, the first one is for Kylie. I want to ask about learning from, after there's an incident, because there was a very serious incident in 2016-2017 when a nursing home in Hadley was shut down a few days before Christmas because apparently they didn't have enough, they had too many agency staff on over the Christmas period, which made all the staff redundant a few days before Christmas, and almost all the residents had severe dementia. And were you, or whoever was in charge, aware that about a third of people with dementia will die from shock if you move them? Now, I wondered if there'd been any looking at it afterwards to find out what the fallout had been, because it must have been catastrophic for some people from that action. That's my first question. Shall I go to the second one later when Kylie's finished? Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. So I wasn't in post during that period of time, but just to reassure you, so after each incident, we undertake a thorough lessons learned activity. So in terms of this particular example you provided, I just don't have any of the detail there to be able to respond, but just to reassure you, this incident that I shared today, or any incident involving the care market or internally within the county council, adult social care conducts a lessons learned to understand what was working well. And going back to our updating of BC plans, we often apply the lessons learned from those into updating our plans. And in adult social care, we locally hold care market related business continuity plans, so for residential homes, home care and the other areas. So I will be reassured that the learning from that incident would have been put in place into our plans. But I just can't speak directly about it because I just wasn't in post at the time.
I don't want to mention the name of the home. It would be too personal for the people involved. But the fact that people with dementia are so very vulnerable, I think should play a very important part in your decision as to what to do with them in an emergency.
Absolutely, and I'd be happy to take this offline with you if that would be helpful. Thank you.
To go on to my second question, this is about comms and it's about councillors. Because before I'm new to Scrutiny, I had no idea there was all these plans for continuity of business, and I felt as a councillor who's been around a few years now, we ought to have been told about it. We ought to be in a loop somewhere and reminded every now and then, this is your responsibility in an event, and this is what you can do to be helpful, because I want to be helpful to my residents. And where do I get the right information from to go, to give out to my residents when they phone me up, which they do? And is that my only responsibility, passing on information, or is there something else? Thank you.
I could take that, please. You are quite right. Councillors do need to understand their role, not only in business continuity, but in emergency planning. I came into county, I worked at West Suffolk before I came into county, and one of the things I wanted to do was to bring in training for councillors, awareness training for councillors. I spoke to Councillor Wiles' predecessor. We were getting very close to the 2025 elections, and we agreed that what we would do is hold fire to do councillor training so we can get the new council. As you know, those elections were suspended, and as a result of that, I have spoken to my emergency planning manager for the county, and we will be rolling out awareness training for all councillors. I know there's talk about 2026 being a council. I'm not going to worry about that now. I need to get this out there because you are very important people. You are my link into my communities during emergencies. You are my reassurance to the public. But unless you know what you're going to say or understand what your roles are, then that's very difficult. So rest assured that training will be landing in your inboxes, hopefully in the next couple of months.
Thank you, Chair. And again, just a very short comment from me. At every full council, there's a Cabinet Member report, which is attached to that. Within that report, especially from my portfolio, which is public health and property protection, it goes through many of the things that are occurring, what happens. For instance, there has been reports on Operation Pegasus, all the other operations that we've been to and gone through. So there is information there, and it is very, very interesting and very, very detailed, especially within public health and the public protection aspect.
Okay, thank you. I think a good question to ask your town and parishes is, can you see their emergency plan? I think that's always a good one, because that normally it's on the shelf gathering quite a bit of dust. So part of our role, I think, is to instigate that sort of element as well. So good, thank you for the question. Councillor Reader next, then Councillor Wilson.
Yes, thank you very much, and thanks for the presentation. And I think just leading on from the Chair and Councillor Richards, and our chairman always reminds us that the benefit of scrutiny is actually to be able to put in front of the public what work goes on, because there is so much work that goes on that we don't know about because there's so much of it and we wouldn't be able to know all of it. So this is the absolute benefit of scrutiny, to be able to bring it into the public and so that we can see. But obviously, when you do that, then questions come out of putting it into this forum, and that's what scrutiny is about. So a link between business continuity plans and the risks of the county council, I would think, are really quite strong. But if you go onto our Suffolk County Council website and put risks, you come up with the corporate performance and risk management dashboard. And if you go into business continuity, you come to the continuity plan. Should there be, is it possible to be, a link between business continuity and risk? Because business continuity, as far as I understand and from the presentation, is all about looking at what the potential risk could be, and then we have a risk register with all the risk, but there doesn't seem to be a link between them. So is a practical solution under the corporate performance tables on each directorate to have a line to say business continuity and put a measure in there somehow, and I don't know how it could be measured, how robust, and even if the business continuity for that department has been actioned. So I'll come to my question after that ramble, but the question is, should there be more of a link between business continuity plan and the corporate performance and risk management? Please.
You've stumped me there, yeah. I think yeah. Business continuity plans, some can't be publicly made aware because of certain criteria they have in them. I think what you're trying to say to me is that under performance capability document, should there be something there say that business continuity plans for each directorate are fit for purpose and are robust? I don't know the answer to that, and that's something I need to take away and obviously speak to the key people who do that document. I can see where you're coming from. The only thing I would say is that within my team, Jill is my person who tests and stress tests those business continuity plans to ensure that they are fit for purpose. I guess that's not quite the answer you're looking for.
Well, that's a pretty good attempt, thank you. But it's
So all I was going to say, Councillor Reader, was I'll review the sites. Obviously, I know the business continuity site on the website, but I'll have a look at the risk website and we'll see what we can do, and we'll work about perhaps putting something out there to give reassurance. I'm quite happy to do that.
Good. So, just to finish that question off, do you think that's quite a pertinent question? Most probably it is, because you've said you'll go away and do it, but I think there should be something that we can see that those continuity plans are being done as you've said, because we as councillors and nobody else can actually see what you're doing. Thank you.
I think, as you said, it'd be quite good to reassure yourselves and the public what we are doing behind the scenes. So even if it's a short statement, then yeah, I agree, we can have a look at that.
Yeah, obviously the risk, as I've just said, is monitored quite regularly by Cabinet, and Councillor Reader, being an ex-Cabinet member, will of course recall that. It is also then any issues are brought up at JLT, where the senior members of staff are there, and they are then called to highlight any issues and to cascade them down to wherever they need to be. It's a really good question, Councillor Reader, and one that we will take away and look at to see if there is some way of linking current information as it happens. As we started right at the very beginning, business as usual is often interrupted by events, but we're always mindful that business as usual should carry on through that event, and that is also through stress situations which are caused by this event. It would be good to look at that link, so if we can take that away and come back to you. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's fair to say you should probably shout a bit more about all the good work you are doing. Certainly to councillors anyway. I think that's come out today. So, yes, Councillor Wilson next.
Thank you. This question on the local command structure. So back during Storm Babette, there was identified as an issue of silo working, so the directories weren't sharing information between each other, and so the command structure was updated. So I'm just wondering, how well has this new system in practice how's it worked in practice? I understand there's been training and exercise on potential scenarios with it, but has it actually proven more effective when dealing with incidents? So, for example, the most recent storm Claudia, has it proven more effective, this new structure?
Yes, it has. I'll expand on that. Basically, after Babette, I picked up there was issues where we had directorates working in silos. We didn't have this top level of sharing information. As a result of that, I went away, looked at how best to make it, and we introduced this new system. It was agreed by the CLT group, and we then rolled it out to all directorates. The beauty of this one is it's scalable. We don't have to have that top-level management system in place to deal with low-level issues, and there's been several examples where we've got two directorate tactical management teams together to deal with a particular problem without having to involve the strategic group, but obviously the executive director has been made aware. So it's happening in real life. We tested it only last week on the exercise that we had regarding cyber, and I was quite pleased, being the author, that it actually did work, and it worked very well. And I think it's been well accepted as well through all directorates. They understand it now, and they've brought into that process. And I think it's made Suffolk County Council even better to be able to deal with an incident than prior to Babette. I'm not saying Babette that we didn't deal with it, but we're now better functionality.
Is that okay? Yeah. Oh, yeah, Steve.
Thank you, Chair. Just as a quick piece of information, today government is about to release its report on COVID-19. It's wonderful having hindsight, it does help, but this is always a learning process. every piece of information that we can glean to make a resilience stronger. We will take it, we will use it. It will make an interesting read because we all have our own memories of what happened in particular cases. The whole picture will probably be tried to be painted. Let's hope that we can take something forward for future events. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. So I've got no one else on my list. I've got a quick question from me on page 18 of the report, where it says that impact analysis looking at how services will be affected by the loss of various elements. And the last one is critical suppliers. Can you give me an example of a critical supplier? I mean, I guess it's not the chap who supplies the chips, is it? What's a critical supplier in your view?
Thanks, Chair. So a critical supplier could be a supplier that we've only got one in the county, so they might only be providing a small amount of resource to us, but it'd be very difficult if they fell and we wouldn't be able to get another supplier, or a critical supplier is somebody that is providing a big service. So if they went into business continuity, then we would have difficulty being able to find another supplier who would be able to perform them duties.
Example?
A care home,
Right.
or not just one care. So if one care home failed, we would probably be able to support that and be able to find places for the residents. But if it was a care home or a large group that had several care homes, so it would be really difficult to find places for 50, 100 residents. Okay. Does that make some sense?
Yeah, fine. So you've got a list of these suppliers, have you, that you sort of identify are the critical ones?
So we have, but we're also working with all directorates to find critical suppliers, and then we will be adding them into our BC plans.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I think, Mr. Chair, just to clarify that, Jill's quite clearly said that critical supplier could be a critical supplier for print cartridges, as we had a conversation yesterday. So we need to look at what the alternatives are. And what Jill has also been doing is she's been talking to directorates who rely on these service delivery, making sure that their business continuity plans are suitable as well. And if not, we're asking them to tighten their security, the systems up. I think we've seen it with large companies who've been supplying critical services to organisations that have failed, and then those organisations have struggled. So that's what we're trying to do.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think that's it. So I just want to say thank you very much for your certainly the information you provided in the paper, which is very comprehensive, and all the answers to the questions this morning. I think we'll have a short 10-minute break and then come back and discuss recommendations, which hopefully may help you in your work forward. We would encourage probably one or two, if you're able to come back while we discuss those recommendations, because that does help us to formulate them. But obviously, if we've got other things to do, you're very free to go if you wish. But again, thank you very much for your contribution this morning. Interesting subject, massive subject. We could be here for 3 days, I guess, looking at this. So we've just touched on the surface, but nevertheless, it's very interesting. I've learned a huge amount today. We've got to remember that we've got, I think, 10 councillors here, so you've got another 65 to get to in terms of updating them on all the good work that you're doing. So thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see some of you about 10 minutes' time. Good, thank you. So, members, back at 2:15, if that's okay. Give you 15 minutes, as I'm very in a Christmas generous mood. Okay, thank you very much. Right, so we're going to have a discussion and hopefully get some recommendations. As I normally do, if we read the recommendations that we've captured during the discussion this morning, to see whether that fits what you've got. If not, obviously you can add to these as we go. So again, we'll obviously thank all the witnesses for coming and the information they've provided today. There is a huge amount of work going on, which looks like it's going on under the surface of what we see, and we can understand why some of that needs to be done in that way. But again, I think there is something about getting that message out further afield, and hopefully Scrutiny today has probably hopefully done that. This is a public meeting, so hopefully that information will get out there. So we've got sort of half a dozen comments in draft form. The first one is to provide a telephone number for residents to contact in an emergency with a recorded message to provide further information. I think that's what Councillor Welham was talking about. To develop a formal structure for out-of-hours availability of technical officers. I think it's Councillor Scarff. Is it technical officers or officers or?
I think it was in particular relating to GHI and the goodwill bit. And was that a sufficient way of relying on it? And I think
right, okay, so we'll add GHI.
Stephen gave us the answer that they were investigating it, but if we can support that, because I think it needs to be sort of more regularised.
Specifically GHI is what you're saying, is it? Yeah. Okay, well we'll put that in. Consider whether current information about business continuity should be linked to the risk register. I think it's Councillor Reader's point. Something around that, I think. To prioritise training for councillors. I think you obviously were planning that anyway, so it would be good to have that, whether that's held over for a while until we know what's happening with the local government reorganisation. But I think it does help to fulfil their role as a link between the council and communities, as a business leader role, as Councillor Wells commented, and particularly in resilience situations. Again, encourage councillors to discuss local emergency plans with their parish and town councils, because I think I said, you asked the question and they've probably got one, but they haven't looked at it probably for about 10 years. So it's always just reminding them to take that off the shelf and dust it down and review it, I think. There was some discussion about the transfer to the mayor under the sort of devolution. We don't know whether we might expand that a little bit. I think, who mentioned that? Is that Councillor Welham? Did you mention the mayor? Somebody mentioned the mayor. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just really after some assurance that they were getting sorted out for a transfer of some responsibility to the mayor, but also would they be ready to transfer stuff to one or more unitary authorities? So it's just a bit of making sure in everything that they do, they've got in the back of their minds that what might fit for the county council and through the county council to the district councils, it's got to be fit for purpose for more than one authority. And the other was around the transfer of the fire service to the mayor.
Okay, thank you. I think we had some reassurance of that, but I think we'll put something, recommendations around that element and the fire service. So it's around, is it fit for purpose, I think is what you're saying. So I think we'll put something around that. We thought when we get to the forward work programme that we might put on there something around the community responders to plan for emergencies, especially in the light of the mayoral authority and LGR. So we can put that on the forward work programme if we've got a space. And agree to add cyber security to its forward work programme. As I said, we looked at that over 2 years ago and that's rapidly changing. We did have a recent update, but it'd be good to have something probably in the autumn of next year, or winter of next year. So that's what we got. So over to you for any additions or whatever. Yes, Councillor Richards.
I'd like to ask for an analysis of the outcomes for when nursing homes are shut down, you know, for the past year or whatever, to keep it up to date, because I think it could be far worse than you're making out in the example here. I'd like to know what happened. I'd like to know, you know, how many people were made redundant, how many people died because they got dementia and the shock killed them. I want to look at all the outcomes, the good ones and the bad ones, instead of, because it's a very rosy picture and I just don't believe it. That could come as one of these things at the back, this information bulletin. I'll be very happy with that.
I'm just thinking that if we could have that information in an information bulletin, that'd be great. Yeah, thank you. Yes?
So on the back of that, I think Kylie said that she'd speak to you out of this meeting, and she's going to get somebody who's got the knowledge to have that conversation with you. So that's definitely going ahead.
That's wonderful for that particular case, but I'd like to see the whole of Suffolk. How many, I mean, is it 2 get shut down in a year, or is it 6? I need to know. And I want to know what the impact is and what we did to prevent them being shut down, because the impact is going to be negative for a lot of them.
I think absolutely, if it's an individual case, that can be taken offline, but I think from a committee point of view, it'd be good if we could have that data in an information bulletin, perhaps in our January meeting.
Yeah, so I'll speak to ASC to produce that information for you.
Great, thank you for that. Anything else? No? Well, okay. What we normally do, obviously, we'll send these round the next 2 or 3 days in draft form, so you have another opportunity to look at those and make amendments or additions to if you think of anything afterwards. So we'll do that within the next couple of days, if that's okay. Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much indeed. And again, thank you for all coming this morning. We'll give you a couple of minutes to move off as we discuss our other agenda items. Thank you. Okay, so we're moving on to agenda item 6, which is the information bulletins. There's 2 on there, 2 reasonably big ones. Edmundton Developments update, and I do know that that's going to be looked at the audit committee week today, the governance of that. And we have the council's carbon report, which is quite a large report. As you know, we don't normally discuss items on an information bulletin, but if there's any issues or comments you want to make, happy to take them, and we can put them on the forward work programme if there's something we need to look at in a bit more detail. Just to remind you, you'll remember the council's carbon report went through various stages. We initially looked at it as a carbon budget when it first came to us. We linked it to the financial budget and had that sort of 2 days after the financial budget scrutiny. But now it's coming to us in a separate report and an information bulletin. So if there's anything there you need us to look at, to put on the forward work programme, we can do that. We're a little bit of a, can't look too far ahead because obviously we don't know what's going to happen, whether we're still going to be in existence in 6 months' time. But there's things we could put on there for the future scrutiny committee to, whoever that may be, could look at. So is there anything you want to discuss with regard to those 2 topics? Any comments? No? If you're happy to move on, yeah, to the next agenda item is the key decision forward programme and the Scrutiny Committee forward work programme. So if there's anything you want us to put on there, it's looking quite packed at the moment. As I say, we can't look too far ahead, but we have got quite a packed programme of the next 6 months. On the 13th of, I've got Councillor Bird and then Councillor Welham.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I was just looking through the forward work programme. Obviously, I take on board what you're saying. We still don't know whether we individually will still be here next May or whether we will be asked to remain in place. But that aside, are we at some stage going to review the performance of Milestones since their contract? I have had one or two individual examples of them failing to meet targets on work in my division. Obviously, I can't ascertain whether those are isolated one-offs or whether there's wider systemic issues. But that aside, I think we need to be looking at the performance of Milestone now that they're quite some time into their contract.
Yes, are they just 2 years in, aren't they? Is it 2 or 3? 2 years, I think, yeah. So we have looked at them, but I think you're quite right. It's worth just constantly reviewing them, because that can go badly wrong quite quickly, can't it? So I think we just need to keep tabs on that. We'll see if we can slot that in somewhere.
Coming back, mine was quite honestly quite straightforward. It was where I paid out of my LHB for some repainting of white cycle line markings, and they didn't meet their 14-week target. They said it was broken equipment or something, but I thought, well, something as basic as that, if they can't meet 14 weeks. As I say, I can't ascertain whether that's isolated or what, unless I emailed every other councillor and said, are you having these sort of issues? I don't know.
I would think probably most councillors have got those type of issues. I certainly have, with the street lighting as much as the highways bit as well. So
it probably needs to be a review with McCann as well as Milestone then, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Who else had their hand up? Councillor Welham, yeah, sorry.
Chair, yeah, it's just in respect of the Gullwing Bridge, to make sure that the information we're provided with isn't just traffic information. We want to know what the other benefits, other than vehicles getting from one side of the river to the other, other benefits, like has there been an increase in use of buses, cycling, walking and so on, as well as the economic benefits. That was one of the key things, I think, of providing the bridge, was that it would give an opportunity to regenerate the area. So has that happened?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, I think the key principle was to sort of originally look at how it's performed against the business plan, early business plan. All those factors we'll take into account. But I'm pleased you mentioned that, because actually our thinking is that we might hold the meeting at Riverside in Lowestoft, because that's right next to the Gullwing Bridge, and we have a feeling that it might be quite a good public interest. We might get it through public, and obviously they ain't got to come to Ipswich from Lowestoft. So we're thinking, and I think Catherine has already provisionally booked a room at the Riverside on that date in February, and if your majority are in agreement, I know some of you will have a longer trip than others, but there'll be some of us who will benefit from that in February, not coming down the A12 with all the traffic lights and everything else. But we did think it's more appropriate, because you can see the Gullwing Bridge obviously from the offices of Riverside, and it seems appropriate to have it there. And there may be a few people from Lowestoft who want to attend that, and we are a public body as well. So, yes, Councillor Bird.
I was going to say, Chairman, I lost count of how many times I travelled home from Riverside at 9:30 and 10 o'clock at night, when I had the equivalent of your esteemed position at Scrutiny Committee at District. So I'm sure I'll be able to get home from there during the daytime from a county scrutiny meeting.
I think we can guarantee you getting home before 9:30, probably. Yeah, Councillor Richards.
Is there a train from Ipswich?
There is a train. I'll pick you up from the station. Anybody who comes by train up? Yeah, liaise with Councillor Reader on that one. And Councillor Goldsmith did already commit to, if anyone from Ipswich wants a lift, he can take it. So, yeah, so. And I think what we'll also try and do is to arrange, if some of you haven't seen it in detail, is to arrange a viewing of it. You know, someone can take us round and have a look at it. I mean, some of us went to the opening of it, but if you haven't actually seen it close up, we could probably arrange that beforehand or after or something. So, yeah, Councillor Mason, sorry.
Yeah, there is no train from Haverhill, so any information you can give on parking, I've not been to Riverside, so I don't know it. So any information you can give about what parking facilities there are there or location would be helpful.
We might be able to arrange a helicopter for you, is that right? Right. Okay, good, thank you for that. Yes, Councillor Scarff.
Yeah, the last item on our sort of forward, well, almost last item on our forward work programme was about the way that Suffolk Highways responds to inquiries about highways issues, and we heard that was under review, but we haven't had anything back on that, to my knowledge, so maybe an information bulletin on that.
Okay.
That was work in progress.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the process is, you know, that when we have recommendations, they are sent to the Directorate to respond within 6 months. So if that's more than 6 months ago and we haven't had a response, we'll chase that up. But that's how it should happen. Otherwise, it all gets lost, doesn't it? We need to have this continuous circle where our recommendations are reviewed and responded back to us, rather than just us do them and then they get lost completely. So, and of course, I do report that into Cabinet meeting as well. So hopefully they'll respond and pick that up. Okay, thank you for that. Just then to say, our next meeting is formal meeting is the 13th of January, which where we're considering the Council's budget for 26-27. Currently there's a reserve date on the 23rd of December. We're keeping our fingers crossed we don't need to meet for that one. Not great to come 2 days before Christmas. So hopefully there's no call in for that, but we obviously don't know yet. And we have also arranged an online workshop for the morning of the 8th of January. Now, you should have this in your calendar because the 8th of January was when we were originally first looking at the financial budget for the next financial year. But because the timescale we were told was very tight for that, we've pushed that back to the 13th. And we're going to utilise the 8th of January to have a sort of a training morning. So we'll have Lou Ainsley and Andrew Philby coming in. This is all online, so you don't need to travel anywhere. They'll come in and they'll give us an update on how the budget is pulled together. I know one or two of you sit on the budget working group, so you'll probably know all of that, but others don't. So we'll have that information first, and they'll touch on how the budget's made up and what it looks like. And then we'll have a trainer from the Centre of Governance and Scrutiny, an external trainer who will give us a sort of an hour and a half of just some of the things we should be looking at. I think that's a good injection in the arm in terms of, you know, what we should be doing, what we're looking at. We've got some new members, but equally we only look at the financial budget once a year. So to have a little refresher on what we should be doing, what we should be challenging the cabinet on is always a helpful thing to do, I think. So hopefully you can all attend that, and you've got that in your calendars as well. And I think that's probably all. So thank you. I'm not going to wish you a happy Christmas. It's a bit too early to do that, isn't it? But anyway, thank you all for this morning. Thank you for your questions and for your comments. And we'll let you have the recommendations as soon as they're finalised. Okay? Thank you very much. Right.